I want to thank everybody who was a part of responding to the incident at John's Disposal. The shortest version is there was a large fire there, and we had over 30 agencies from the area and surrounding counties respond to that, and I want to thank them directly for that. Your efforts do not go unnoticed, and the work of our volunteer paid on call and certainly our paid on premise firefighters and responders throughout the region is why we were able to do what we did yesterday, and including into today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Joe Uzelding. He will read a brief statement, and we will have some time for questions and answers. Thank you very much. By the way, Joe's been here since he was one of the people that responded to the incident, so when you talk about putting in the hours, he was here last night, he's here today, he's going to be putting in an evening and probably back tomorrow. So thanks to him and to everybody else that has been working with him.
Thank you. So thank you everybody for coming this afternoon. Again, I'm Joe Uzelding, Whitewater Fire Department. So last night we received the call at approximately 9:54 p.m. It was Sunday evening. Whitewater Fire and EMS was dispatched to a report of smoke and flames coming from a recycling building on the John's Disposal property. First arriving units reported heavy smoke and flames coming from the sorting recycling building. Box alarm 12-5 was requested, quickly going past 5 alarms due to the cold conditions, the size of the incident, and need for additional water. Crews ended up setting up multiple master streams to protect an adjacent building and other mobile equipment on site. With the assistance of John's Disposal personnel, equipment was moved away from the hazardous situation, allowing crews to operate further. The affected building housed sorting equipment for recycling materials as well as recycling product. A significant amount of recycling materials continues to smolder into today as crews remain on scene conducting overhaul and dousing hot spots. There is no danger to the public at this time, and the DNR is monitoring any runoff from the incident. The incident remains ongoing, and crews will continue to monitor the situation for the next few days. At this time, the fire is under investigation and the cause is undetermined. The estimated value of the building and contents is likely in the millions of dollars. I will take questions now at this time.
Hey Chief, Aaron Maven with Fox 6 News.
Yes.
What is your greatest challenge right now when it comes to fighting this fire, dealing with the hot spots, and also the investigation? What's the greatest challenge?
Restate the question, please, so the people online can hear.
Sure. So you're asking what the greatest challenge is at this time for us regarding the investigation and ongoing efforts. This is likely going to be a lengthy incident, so we expect that this will probably last potentially a couple more days. The building that was involved was structurally compromised, and we have a partial collapse of the building, but we cannot enter the building safely at this point to get to all the hot spots that are in it. At this point, we're just going to monitor it and respond as required to douse any hot spots. There's also a large amount of recycling materials that are outside. Some of the John's Disposal staff are able to move product around to pools of water that remain on scene. However, as the temperatures fluctuate, those pools of water may freeze and may not be available for them to do that. So we may need to go back out there in order to douse any hot spots that come up within the product. Though right now it's the length of the incident and the resources that are going to be required for us potentially for the next couple days here to monitor the situation.
Chief, this is Kim with Fort Athens Online. Can you tell me please something about the building? Can you tell me something about its size, maybe square footage? What is it? Is it a three-sided shed? What is it that was on fire?
Sure, you're asking about the building, the size. So it's a fairly large building. I'm going to guesstimate right now it's approximately 150 to 200 feet by probably about 100 feet. There is quite a bit of equipment in the building. There was conveyor units, sorting units, things of that nature. So there's many obstacles that are in there for us to deal with. It's also on multiple levels. So where we're working with the recycling materials, it's on a lower level than where the building is. Then it's also at a little bit of a slope moving up. So that also creates a little bit of an issue for us setting up equipment, getting around to various sides of the structure as well to deal with it.
Is it a three-sided shed then?
I believe it's a four-sided
So it's
shed.
closed.
It's closed, yes.
And is it, when I look at the pictures above, I see something like a complex. Is this building on the edge, northwest, south here in this complex?
This would be the southeast side of the complex.
And the complex, can you give me just a sense of it? How big, how many acres, and buildings?
I'm going to guesstimate on acreage. It's probably, I would say 15 to 20 acres maybe.
15, 20 acres?
Yeah, because they have, I believe they own a good portion of the area around it. Don't 100% quote me on everything that they own out there.
And the building is where in this complex?
So it's actually right where you see that marker for John's Disposal Services. That should be the building, I believe, that was involved. There was a building just to the left of that as you're looking at it. That would have been just to the west of it. When crews first arrived on scene, their primary was to protect that building and make sure that the fire did not spread.
And so then it was only the one building? that was
Correct.
involved?
Correct. There may be damage to other mobile units such as trailers or other things. At this point, we're not 100% sure. There wasn't any major damage. They weren't involved in the fire, but there could be heat-related damage for them as well.
Girth around the building that's affected, are we looking at a couple of 100 feet or 50 feet, or are they attached? What are we looking at?
Probably about 50 feet around it. Plus, as we were moving things around, the pile that was involved was probably a good, I would say 100 feet, from the building as things spread.
How long could it take to find out how exactly this fire started?
I would assume there's going to be insurance investigators that are going to be involved in it. So there's probably going to be multiple agencies that are going to be checking into it. I couldn't guesstimate at this point how long it would take them to do any assessment or if there will ever be a cause for the fire found.
I'm on News 3 now. Tell me, what was the scope of this that required so many agencies to come and respond to this?
Sure. So the scope of the incident was quite large. We had a number of different issues when we showed up to the scene. First off, there is no water supply on the John's Disposal property other than drinking water. So we didn't have the water that we required to fight that incident. If you look at the map, LS Power Whitewater, the power plant is just to the west of the incident. So we ended up running supply lines over to their property, as well as having an engine in their evaporative towers that drafted the water underneath it, and then we ended up pumping the water over to our incident. We also requested tenders from multiple agencies. I believe at one point we had over 15 tenders on scene that were running a water shuttle, basically circling the incident, dropping water. Engines would then draft that water, pump it up to the incident, and then we were flowing on there. They were filling back in the city of Whitewater at 2 different fill points. We also dealt with the cold temperatures. Even though there's a fire and you think it's going to keep people warm, it doesn't. That cold weather really does affect people that are working out there. We were also dealing with various apparatus that would get cold and freeze up. So if we were not flowing water with them, that would hamper us then utilizing that apparatus later on. Plus the scope of the incident, managing something that large can be very, very difficult. It takes a lot of people, a lot of leadership involved to make sure that we're organizing it properly and that we're making sure then that crews are effectively released when they're no longer needed, not remaining on scene and waiting to be released. We want to get them back to their agencies as quickly as possible because they might have an incident as well, and if they're not there for that incident, that also affects their response.
And how long did that main firefight sort of last?
The main firefighting probably went until the wee hours of the morning. I would say it was probably closer to 2, 3 o'clock where we had the bulk of the fire knocked down, and we're really working then on salvage, overhaul, hitting hot spots at the incident, and as I mentioned earlier, those efforts are going to be ongoing for hitting those hot spots.
Can I ask you about the smoke?
Yes.
So smoke emanates from this.
Yep.
And do we worry at all about what might have been in the recycling material? And did we have to evacuate, or was there any consideration or concern?
At the time, we didn't have any concern. Most of the smoke was going to the north, and across that across Highway U is a lot of empty farmland. So at that point, we weren't too concerned about that. We were more concerned about crews that were operating in the smoky conditions. As many of you know, we wear SCBAs. We bring our own air to the fire, so crews that were operating up in the buckets did have to be on air when they were exposed to the chemicals. Various materials in recycling, a lot of plastics, which are usually petroleum-based. We also deal with cardboard that can be coated with various different materials. So we never know what we're breathing in, so we're always planning for the worst and trying to keep ourselves safe.
Were any crew members injured?
No crew members were injured in the incident. No workers at the plant were injured at the incident. There was nobody on site at the time, but we did get, I believe it was ownership of the plant, those members that showed up that then assisted in the incident.
Did I read correctly that this may have started in a bathroom?
We don't know where it started at this time.
Linda, you might want to enter. What is the criteria for calling the state fire marshal and is there a possibility of bringing this case?
The criteria usually depends. If it's suspicious in nature, at this time, we don't have any inclination that it's suspicious in nature. Typically, if there's a death, if there's injury, things like that, that's when we would be calling in the state fire marshal. At this time, we didn't have any of that.
At this time, I just want to jump in and ask if there's anyone online that has a question, please raise your hand and we will recognize you and allow that to be asked. So keep that in mind. Thank you. We have someone, we're going to pause to take some of the questions we have online. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Hi, this is Jennifer Eisner calling from the Whitewater Register. If you would mind relating some perspective on how this worked together and how the MABUS system helped keep this under control last night.
Yes, I believe you asked how the MABUS system helped to assist with this incident and keep it under control. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So MABUS stands for Mutual Aid Box Alarm System. We have agreements with numerous other fire departments that in the event that the incident is larger than what we can handle ourselves, we can then, what's referred to as pulling a box. When you hear a first, second, third alarm incident, that would be the escalating levels of those box alarms that we have. So we have those predetermined in our response area. So the minute that we find an incident that we cannot manage on our own, we need additional resources, we automatically pull one of those box alarms. That brings people from neighboring towns like as close as LaGrange, but also as far away as we pulled from Dane County, we pulled from Kenosha County, we pulled from quite a ways away. And the quicker we call for those resources, the faster they're there, and the sooner that we can help manage that incident and mitigate any issues that we're going to run into. So in this situation, we would not have been able to handle an incident this large on our own with just the resources that the Whitewater Fire and EMS has.
What level?
We went to 5+ alarms for this. So after you go to 5 alarms, then we usually move to what are called interdivisional requests. You can get strike teams, you can get task forces. There's various different terminology for the groups of apparatus and personnel that you're going to end up getting.
Other questions online? Otherwise, we have follow-ups inside. Go ahead.
Hotspots. You mentioned that you have a few.
Yes.
Can you tell me how many, and can you give me a sense of how long you think those hotspots will last, and also then thinking about people trying to travel past this on the county roadway, are you still asking people to stay away? Is it open?
Sure. Sure. You're asking about hotspots, how we deal with them, and also whether or not the roadway is open. So at this time, Highway U is open. We did open traffic earlier today. Once the main concern with Highway U was really the number of apparatus that we had parked along the roadway. And we wanted to make sure that we were able to get that water through as needed. Plus, when you're dealing with freezing conditions and we're dealing with water and dumping water, it ends up spilling on the roadway and it gets extremely slick. So it causes a hazardous condition for the firefighters working there as well as anybody driving past. So we did request the Highways Department, Jefferson County. We also requested Whitewater Streets Department to come out and do some salting for us to hopefully help mitigate those issues, which they did. The hot spots that we're dealing with on scene, I can't really give you a number because they vary. As they pop up, we deal with them. It might be a couple that we're dealing with at a time. It might be 5 or 6 that we're dealing with at a time. And we prioritize them based on if they're threatening anything else, if they are easy for us to get to, if it's going to take a lot of resources for us to move to that location to then extinguish them. So for example, the building itself, there's only certain areas that we can easily get to at this point. Otherwise, we have to start opening up the building, which is why we had resources on scene such as Jacob Brothers. Walton's actually works for, or I should say contracts with John's Disposal, so they were already on scene and were already assisting with the incident with their heavy equipment. So they were invaluable in opening things up so we could actually get to the seat of the fire a lot quicker. But as those hot spots come up, those are things that we have to address, whether or not we're having issues accessing it, how we get to them, how much resources we have available, and what we need to use to actually extinguish them. So right now, it's nothing that we can't manage.
Anything else?
I'd like to know if anybody's been in touch with the leadership of the company and whether or not they've given us any indication whether or not they plan to rebuild, what are their plans then moving forward for the damage?
I can tell you that they were on scene fairly quickly after the incident started. And as more members showed up, they were able to assist with various things, moving some of their disposal trucks, moving semis that had product on them that were on, I believe, flatbeds. We have not heard anything as far as what their plans are right now to rebuild. I would assume there's going to be numerous factors that are going to play into that, insurance, et cetera. You're welcome.
Any other questions for us? Okay, I want to thank everybody who participated in person and online, and mostly thank you to the fire and emergency personnel, not only in Whitewater but also regionally, that responded. We couldn't have done it without all of you, and we will have additional updates to all of the membership that received communications regarding this press conference, and we'll have our next update probably in the next 24 to 48 hours. Thank you very much.
Recording stopped.
Thanks everybody for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for setting us up.
Of course. I have cards over here if anyone wants or needs them. Please feel free to contact myself.
News 3 Now is always on.
Get the Channel 3000 app, activate the push alert, and we will send you breaking news, traffic, and weather alerts as it happens.
The Channel 3000 app. Get it now.
Powered by News 3 Now.